Hello and welcome to the 14.1 notes. I already have the learning target, so you can write that down. I can dilate and translate points on a graph. We're learning two things today, dilations and translations. We're going to start with dilations. So what dilations are, it's basically shapes getting bigger or smaller. And a shape that gets bigger is going to get further away from the center, which in this case would be the origin. And shapes that get smaller, or reductions, are going to the points will get closer to the center. So what am I talking about? Well, first I've got the pre-image, and then the image is after that. Okay, so this pre-image is what is in the picture. So I've got my points A, B, and C. And A is -3, 3. B is -3, -3. And C is 3, -3. And then we are going to take all of these points and we are going to reduce them by the scale factor. And what this is the scale factor. And if you think of the word factor, you may have heard it before. It implies multiplying. So we are going to use this to multiply these numbers in order to get our image. And that's going to reduce the size of the triangle. And so a reduction, the scale factor is going to be less than 1. So if you notice, this is 1/3. So it is less than 1. And so it's going to make our shape smaller. So what we are going to do is take each of these points and we are going to multiply them by 1/3. And what we're going to do, and this is, I'm also going to write this, the center is 0, 0, or it is, we are dilating it about the origin, is another way you may see it. 0, 0 is called the origin. And so we're going to take all these points and we're going to multiply them by the scale factor. So 1/3 times -3 just happens to be -1. Okay, and then look at this. I've got A, but notice that's the same as this. So there's got to be, some kind of symbol to differentiate the pre-image from the image. And that symbol is just simply like a little apostrophe. So this is called A prime. So it's -1, and then we multiply the 3 by 1/3, and you get 1. And we're going to go through and do that to all of these individually, our B prime and our C prime. -3 times 1/3. It's essentially -3 divided by 3. That's the same as multiplying it by 1/3. So we're going to end up with -1 and -1. We're just multiplying these separately. Now, this 3 times 1/3 will be a +3. That -3 times 1/3 will be a -1. And now we have the image, or what happens after we dilate the shape. So let's label these. So we've got A is -1, 1. It's our A prime. Our B is -1, -1. It's our B prime. And our C is, oh goodness, yeah, it's definitely a 3. Hopefully you caught that more like yelling at the screen. That should be a 1, because 3 times 1/3 is a 1. And then we have this shape. So what we just did was we took this shape and we reduced it by 1/3. So our shape is now 1/3 of the size of this larger shape. All right. All right, so if you are in advanced, keep listening. If you're in regular geometry, what you need to do is skip to the next example, example 3, because this is advanced only. Right, so here we go. We've got this next example that's advanced only. And we want to produce a dilation of XYZ. So this shape is shape XYZ. The scale factor is 1/2. But now we're using X as our center. So we begin with X as the center. So we want to figure out what is the change from x to y, and it says to use slope. So we're going to think about that. So from x to y, it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1, 2. So it goes down 4, it goes right 2. And I'm actually going to write it like this because I think this makes the most sense to me. From x to y, down 4, right 2. And then we want to have a scale factor of 1/2. So we are going to take the change from x to y, and we are going to multiply that by the scale factor. And then we will end up with the new down and right. So we're going to multiply this by 1/2. So this is the scale factor. So this changes based on that number. And if it's helpful, I think it may be easiest if we highlighted that 1/2 and then highlighted it here so we knew where that number is coming from. So we go down 4 and right 2, but instead we are now going to go down 2 and right 1. All right, let's think about the change. So now from x to y, so this answer, we now want to go down, starting at x, because x is going to be your center. My center means starting point. So starting from x, I am now only going to go down 2 and over 1. Oh, you know what? This is all sorts of messed up. We're going to change this to z. All right. I was counting from x to z, but I wrote x to y. So just change that to z, and we'll be good. So we're trying to find our z prime. We go down, instead of going down 4, we're going to go down half that much because the scale factor is 1. So down 2 over 1. Now our z prime is this new number. It is 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. So z prime is 7, 4, because it's going to make this shape half as big. All right, now we're actually going x to y. Starting with x, because x is our starting point, we're going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so down 6 and left 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to take those and we're going to multiply by our scale factor. Let me get my highlighter back out. All right, 6 times 1/2 is 3, so it becomes down 3. 4 times 1/2 is 2, so it's going to be left 2. So notice what does not change. The down stays the same, the right stays the same, down and left. The only thing that changes is the number. So now we will go down 1, 2, 3, left 1, 2, and our new y prime is going to be 4, 3. And all we have done is we have now changed the shape to a smaller triangle. All right, moving on to example 3. Example 3, this should be everybody. So for my pre-image, I'm going to have my D, my E, and my F. So if you would pause this video and figure out what these points are. They are -1, 1, -1, -1. Hopefully this is what you got. And then we want our D prime, our E prime, and our F prime. And to figure all of those out, we simply need to take our numbers individually. We need to multiply it by that scale factor. So -1 times 3, -3. 1 times 3 is just 3. Okay, see what we did there? So -1 times 3 is -3. -1 times 3 is -3. Same here. 1 times 3 is a +3. And then there's my shape. So now I'm going to plot these points. There's my D prime. -3 would be my E prime. And my F prime. And then my new shape would be that big triangle. All right, moving on to number 4. So now we are going to figure out what that scale factor is. So we've got 6 points that we want to write down. And if we are writing those down, our X, V, W, X prime, V prime, W prime. Alright, so our X, so it's important that we identify like what our prime is. So my image, I'm going to highlight that image. And that way we don't get the points mixed up. So we've got -1, -2, that's our X. -1, 1. And, okay, I went ahead and for time's sake, just went ahead and fill them in. So pause the video, write them down, then we'll talk about it. Basically what we've got going on here is 2 to 4. What do you multiply 2 by to get 4? Alright, multiply by 2. What do you multiply -1 by to get -2? Oh, multiply by 2. So all of these, you take this number, multiply it by 2, and you will get the answer. Alright, and then if you are in advance, stick around for example 5. If you're not, fast forward to example 6. Alright, we're going to do the same thing. Except for this one, our center is B, so that's our starting point. Our scale factor is 2. So we count from B to A and from B to C. This right here is my center. So that, let's go ahead. You know what? I think it might be easier. Let's do this. Center. And then when we write our scale factor, we'll highlight that as well, just so we can keep track of everything. B to A, what is the change? So it goes down 2, and it goes left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Left 5. From B to C, it goes down 3, right 1. All right, you want to take that, and you want to multiply these numbers by the scale factor. Now you know where that came from. And we're just going to be writing for a second. So 2 times 2, so now it goes down 4. 5 times 2, now left 10. 3 times 2, down 6. So notice these numbers are getting bigger because scale factor is greater than 1. 1 times 2, now it's right 2. So B to A is down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it goes over 2. So what we have just found is our C prime, because that C moved further away from B. And then A now goes down 2 over 10. And then like another way you can think of it, down 4 over 10. Another way you can think of it is it goes down 5 2 twice. So if that just makes more sense in your head, down 3 over 1 twice. Down 3 over 1. Then you now have your A prime. So you're counting down 4, left 10. There's my new bigger shape. And my new A prime is -7, 1. My new C prime is 5, negative 1. Going on to number 6. We have all these points. So they're already labeled here. Let's talk about what is a translation. So that was all dilations. Now moving on to translations. These are super easy. You were just counting. So what do these mean? So if you look, this is called a vector. So this is a vector. And what this means is that the x value and the y value change by that number. So you would take your x value and you would add a positive 2 to it. So let's do that here. A would now be negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1, or a prime, excuse me. And then our y value would be negative 1 plus 3, so 2. So a would then move to negative 1, 2. So what just happened? Well, a moved 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Ooh, it moved that number. Let's do it for B. So B prime is going to be negative 1, negative 1. So it ends up here. And then another way you can look at it is just directly on the graph, counting over 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then you've got it on your graph. There's two different ways. You can just add the numbers to the points, or you can look at your graph and count right 2 up 3, because both of these are positive. So we now have our A prime, our B prime, and our C prime. Notice what did not happen. This shape did not change at all. It's the same size, it is just moved. So dilation was getting smaller or bigger. This one just shifts over and up. So now instead of 0, negative 4, it is now 2, negative 1. All right, we're going to go through and do all of these. So translation of negative 2, 3. All right, this is a little bit different. So now instead of adding a 2, we've got this D. We are going to add a negative 2. So negative 3 plus a negative 2 would be negative 5. So D prime is negative 5. And then 0 plus 3 is 3. All right, and then E, 3 plus negative 2 is negative 1. So E prime is negative 1. Or, sorry, positive 1. Switch that. It's basically 3 minus 2. So 1, and then add a 3. It's 3. And then for F, 3 minus 2 is 1. And then negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So our points are now negative 5, 3 would be our D prime. One, 3, and 1, 0. So our shape just shifted. I would highly suggest pausing it and then watching me do the next one after you've already filled yours in. But our A prime, so let's this time just try to count. So it's going to go 2 to the right because it's a positive 2, and to the right is positive, and 3 down. So we're going to start here and we're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and that's our new B, our B prime. And then from C we're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So we have our A prime, our B prime, and our C prime. Let's see if it matches what would happen if we take our negative 3 and add 2 to it. So it becomes negative 1. And then this 4 minus 3 is negative 1. Yep, that's exactly where that is. So there's two ways that you can do it. So our B prime is -1, -2, and our C prime is 2, -2. Okay, we're going to move on to translation of -2, -3. So, I mean, if you understand it by now, you don't have to watch this example, but if you need one more, here it is. D is going to, we're going to take the x value and we're going to subtract 2 from that. So -3 plus a -2 would be -5. And then this becomes a -1, 2 minus 3. So -5, -1, there we go. That's our D prime. And then E becomes 1, -1. That's our E prime. And then F prime, 3 minus 2 is 1. And another thing I want you to notice, look, that's the same number, the change is the same, so these are going to end up being the same number. Same with this. So make sure you pay attention to that. -1 minus 3, you're going to get a -4. And here is my F prime, my new shape. Alright, and that's all. Thanks, guys.